51 days to kick off, and today Auburn's linebacking room, their linebackers got a little bit deeper. A 6-year player from Maryland signed with the Tigers today. That's Fa'Najae Gotay, 6 feet 230. By the way, that's Zach Blackerby. I'm Brad Law. Thanks for watching Village Vice. Let's talk about this guy a little bit here, Zach. He played a lot of football, specifically his last 2 years at Maryland. I'm not getting into the bowl game stats because bowl games don't matter. And if I say that when it doesn't go well for Auburn, then I can't use a guy's positive stats to hype him up. But he's played a lot of football, especially the last 2 seasons. He's an addition to the linebacking core.
I mean, even in 2019, he played 266 snaps. In 2020, he played 208 snaps, including 100 snaps in a game by Maryland in 2020, which is kind of wild to think about. So, yeah, this guy's played a ton of football. This guy plays a ton of football. It reminds me a little bit of the Dory Maiusi edition that we saw in December in that transfer portal window. The big difference is Maiusi went through spring. Obviously, Gotay did not do that. But I think this is a great situation for Auburn. I don't fully get why Gotay decided to sign here. Yeah. And we've talked about this before. Everybody wants something different in the portal. Maybe he wants to play in the SEC. It's closer to home. He's a Fort Myers guy, so it's closer to home than Maryland, obviously. I don't know, but this is a great ad for Auburn. I don't know like how much Gotay is going to play.
That was my question. That was going to be my question with the guys that we've already talked about, with Asante and with Keys and Maiusi and all of the freshman guys. And, how much do you expect them to play? Because theoretically, and for a 6-year guy missing spring, okay, like I got a pretty good grasp on how to pick up an assignment, how to learn a defense. I don't know how many different coordinators he had at Maryland over the course of 6 years, but he's not going to be new to the process of learning something new and picking it up quickly. So, how much do you expect him to play? I think it's a fascinating question.
Yeah, and he played snaps in 2018. So I assume he has a relationship with Durkin. I mean, that lines up, right? I think.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, the worst case scenario is he is an experienced depth piece for Auburn's linebacking core. Like that is the absolute worst case scenario. I think it's a great addition by the Tigers. I don't think he's going to come in and take snaps away from Eugene Asante or Austin Keys or Dory Maiusi. I don't think.
Yeah.
But he could be the fourth linebacker. Robert Woodyard or Hem's probably fighting for that fourth linebacker spot now, which is exciting. I think it makes the room better. I don't think it's flashy. I don't think you're going to see him play as many snaps this year as he has the last few years at Maryland, which has been that 400, 300 range. I don't think he hits that unless there's some injuries in front of him, which could happen. It's linebacker. But like I said, I mean, worst case is you get an experienced player who's played a ton of Big Ten football to be a really solid depth piece for you.
6 feet 230. That's pretty stout. I mean, that's solid. Last year or the last 2 years, 24 games, 81 tackles, 3.5 tackles per game is kind of what that averages out. 5 tackles for loss, 1 interception each of the last 2 seasons, just as an aside from the linebacker spot. So I like that. And does he keep a freshman off the field in a situation where you'd rather that freshman have an extra few reps to watch and to learn as opposed to being in there with the live bullets?
My gut reaction is this makes it harder for DJ Barber and DeMarcus Riddick to have a role this season. Just pure gut reaction, which I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know. I think you can make the argument for both, but right now, I just don't think you add a guy like this if you don't plan on using him to some extent. I'm not saying start him or even be, the first off the bench, but I just don't think a guy like that would come here if there wasn't some kind of mutual agreement of, you're going to be our fourth backer, which means you're going to play, 8 snaps a game in the SEC. And maybe that's something he wanted.
Sure. On top of the already, like the existing appealing elements that we've talked about before, you play in the SEC, you get to be at Auburn for a year, and there are a ton of worse places to be and experience campus life. And so, all right, schedule news future schedule news.
Mhm.
After I tell you, you need to schedule, or maybe just do it in an impromptu way, a visit to roback.com. All right. Go to roback.com, use our promo code at checkout, VICE20, VICE20. You're going to get 20% off at checkout. We have gotten the statistics back. We know that many of you have done just that. You've gone to roback.com. You've used our promo code VICE20 at checkout. You've gotten your 20% off, and you are loving the products, from polos to hoodies to quarter zips to T-shirts and shorts and leisure wear. And they have it all. You'll look sharp. You'll feel even better, and you'll be ready for the rest of the summer and the fall. Update that wardrobe and support Village Vice. Go to roback.com. Use promo code VICE20 at checkout. So, Zach, Auburn and UCLA agreed to cancel their future home-and-home series. UCLA did the same thing with Georgia. From their perspective, it was done. They're going to be traveling all over the country now for conference games. So, and now they're not in the same league as Cal. So now UCLA and Cal are going to play a 4-year home-and-home series, which makes sense. That makes a ton of sense. I also don't think Auburn put up much of a fight, because Hugh Freeze doesn't want to go to the Pacific time zone and play a game again.
No, and Auburn shouldn't have to do that. I don't really get the benefit of doing that, especially if they're going to park us at, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock tip, where it's, local time, where, the game's not ending till after midnight. It's not good for our fans. It's not good for the players. Like, it's just, I don't really know what we get out of it. You don't get any extra TV time or anything like that. So I'm okay with this. I do think it's fun to play teams you don't play too often, but at what cost? Like, it has to make sense. And so I'd rather not have this home and home with UCLA, and let's see what else can kind of pop up on the schedule moving forward. I'm 100% okay with it.
To that point, like, it makes more sense for UCLA to play Cal than it does for UCLA to play Auburn, and there'll be more interest from their perspective. And if Auburn were to add like a Georgia Tech or someone else geographically interesting that they don't play all the time, the problem is that the options at this hour aren't what they would be when you schedule a series 10 years out. I think I looked at like BYU, Utah, Michigan State are the most appealing options that have open opportunities in 26 and 27. So I think one of the questions is, do you replace UCLA with a power conference team like one of the ones we just mentioned? And Auburn doesn't want to go, I don't think, too far west. So do you look at Michigan State, or does it get replaced with somebody? You have to settle for somebody like that the fan base isn't all that excited about, or do you not replace them with a non-conference game? Are we waiting to see if 9 games are coming to the SEC schedule, in which case it would just be replaced with a 9th conference game?
Yeah, which makes you think, could we possibly learn something next week at SEC Media Days? Is this why all of this is starting to happen? I don't know. To me, I don't think Auburn needs to swing for the fences for a game like this. It does seem like scheduling has gotten a little bit more fluid, Brad, than it used to be. And I think everything post 2020 has really shown us like, oh, you really can just throw together where games are played at the last minute.
Yeah.
But also with just the realignment of everything. I mean, college football is way more fluid now than it was 5 minutes ago. It's changing. It's evolving. And we'll see if Auburn does play a Michigan State, or, I mean, I don't care who they play. I don't get the fascination with trying to play teams that are kind of in the same tier as you. You're in the SEC. There's no reason to make life tougher on yourself. It'd be different if it was an ACC or a Big 12 situation where you needed a little bit more oomph in your schedule. But to me, I don't really get it. I don't know why SEC schools would ever do that at this point.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Let's hear from you. Who do you want to see Auburn play? Do you want a 9th conference game, or do you want another cupcake, or do you want another non-conference game? Speaking of media days, Zach, Peyton Thorne, Eugene Asante, Keldrick Falk. I'm looking forward to hearing those guys represent Auburn. I know you've talked a lot on Locked On Auburn about what it means for those guys to be at media days, but I want to throw a challenge at you.
Ooh!
If you were limited to just one word to describe what each of those guys represents by their appearance at media days. So Peyton Thorne's appearance at media days described in just one word. What one word would you use? And for those watching, we didn't plan this. I just sprung this on Zach.
Got it. I'm gonna do a quick read to stall while I think about this.
Smart.
I've got one word when I think about mybookie.ag.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic, or easy, or
I've got
the
one.
best. Okay, go ahead.
Opportunity.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, all encompassing. I'm going to use a hyphenated word there because they've got everything. They've got a sports book where you can wager on anything you can think of, and obviously an interactive casino with live dealers. If you want to play your blackjack or any other sort of poker, they've got it all over at mybookie.ag. So use promo code next round. They'll give you access to a nice VIP selection of perks, as well as some extra money to wager with. So that is mybookie.ag.
Okay. Let's start with Peyton Thorne.
Can we start with Keldrick? Because I have his.
Okay. Hey, why don't we start with Keldrick Falk?
I think he's going to come across as imposing.
Imposing. I like that. That's a good word.
I think both physically and as far as how he's going to address the media, I think he's going to come across as not aggressive, but we need to make sure we know where this guy is on the field, because he's going to be a walking storyline of production. I think that's what we're looking at.
I like that a lot. I chose the word breakout.
That's great.
Yeah, I think his presence at media days announces a breakout opportunity for him as a leader defensively, in the spotlight. I mean, this is that representation of like, all right, you're literally going to be in the spotlight for this day in Dallas. And in the same way we expect you to be in the spotlight on the field making plays in the fall.
Yep. I have Eugene's as well. Peyton, I'm really struggling with.
Okay.
Eugene's is easy to me.
Okay.
Energy.
I like that. I similarly said charisma.
I think we're in the same boat there.
Yeah, I think he's going to charm media members. I think he will impress the media members there. And I think Eugene is all about charisma in a media setting like that. As intense as he is and productive as he is on the field, I think in media settings, that charisma is, I mean, just hits you in the face as soon as he walks in.
Yeah, I mean, he's done NIL deals with, the local radio stations here, and he's great. He's great. It's hard to listen to him and not be fired up. Peyton Thorne, one word.
If you need more time to stall, I'll give you mine.
Professional?
Yeah.
So boring. I want to give Peyton more than that, but I can't think of another word.
Well,
what do you have?
When Johnny Manziel went in 2013, he was like the most followed personality outside of a coach ever at media days. Like Tebow didn't get his kind of attention at media days. And the interviews he did were boring. They were so painfully vanilla, cardboard. You get the point. I don't think that's a bad thing.
No.
And to that point, my word is stability. I think there are 11 of the SEC teams that are bringing quarterbacks to media days. If you have a quarterback that you feel good about, you bring him as the face of your offense, if not the face of the entire team.
I mean, really, the only team that's not bringing their surefire starter is Tennessee, I believe.
Yes.
They're not taking Nico, are they? I don't
think
they're
not.
Yeah.
Stability.
That's good, because he's going to say all the right things. He's going to win people over, because he's a pretty personal dude. I mean, that's everything that we heard about him. The story of as soon as he signed at Auburn, he asked for like the book of faces of everybody that was in the program, because he wanted to like know everybody's name and all that. It's like that's stuff you want.
Yeah.
And when you ask him a question and kind of the media scrums, like he stares you down like he's answering your question. It's a conversation between you and him, and he appreciates that and sees that. So I think stability is great. I think it's a great word for it.
Kentucky, Tennessee, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, and Texas A&M are the schools that are not bringing a quarterback. A&M's interesting that they're not bringing Connor Wegman.
Yeah, that is interesting. I think it's interesting Kentucky's not bringing Brock Vandagriff either. That's odd.
To that point, let me ask you this before we wrap up today, sort of the closing thoughts.
Sure.
Aside from the Auburn contingent, who are you most looking forward to hearing from at media days? This can be coaches or players.
Yeah.
And again, I just sprung this on you. There was
no you're good. This is an easy one. As long as Lane Kiffin is an SEC head coach, that will always be the answer. I like Lane Kiffin. I like the way he presents himself at the podium. It's so refreshing because it's so different. It's like a shock to the system.
It's dry. Yeah, the content is. Now, the way he delivers it is so dry and like he would rather be anywhere else. And
yeah, but he just like, it's kind of, because like none of them want to be there. It's nice that he's being honest with you, you know? I don't know. So I like that. And then obviously the storylines around Kalen DeBoer. I mean, the first SEC media days without Saban is pretty wild. So curious to see what all goes with that. And then, you know, I'm a fan of Sark as well, you know, at Texas, and obviously the storylines of Texas coming into the league. So I guess those are kind of my three. What about you?
I'm interested to hear from both Brent Venables and Steve Sarkisian, and very specifically, how do they balance respect and reverence for the SEC? Like, how much are we glad to be in the SEC versus how much are you guys glad to have us? You know what I mean? Like, there's gravitas with those programs. How much do those coaches sling around the gravitas, and how much do they?
That's interesting.
I mean,
what does your gut say? Yeah, my gut says Texas will be more like, y'all are lucky to have us, and Oklahoma will be like, I'm so pumped we're here.
I could see that. Well, especially since the league moved the event to Texas for this year. A&M's looking over there like, y'all never have it in Dallas the last 10 years. We've been in the league 10 years. You've had somebody from the state of Texas, and you haven't had it over here. I'm also interested in this one. I'm interested to hear from Talon Green, the Arkansas quarterback.
Okay.
All right. Last year, he was at Boise, and we know how much different the SEC is from Boise State.
What are you referring to anything specific when you say that?
I'm just saying that the two aren't comparable.
Okay. Do you have any examples to, like, you know, maybe if you wanted to show your work on that?
I do. I have recent examples, but for the sake of time.
Understood.
Green had 2 multi-touchdown passing games. He started 12. He had 2 multi-rushing touchdown games. But now Bobby Petrino's his offensive coordinator.
Wild.
Yeah. At Arkansas. It feels like it feels like a reboot. It feels like that 70s show and then now doing that 90s show.
Right.
So I think that'll
be the original's better, by the way. I think we should all kind of agree that that's a parallel in this example too.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. So he's like, I understand why you tried it. Just doesn't hold the same cachet. I'm going to cheat a little bit with this one. I'm curious to see, do the Texas media folks overtake Alabama media for the number of members wearing team gear at media days? Is there more burnt orange?
Wow, what a great question.
And horns up at media days than there are crimson. Well, then there are people in crimson walking.
That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, the Alabama media loves to wear Bama stuff for sure.
They sure do. Those are some of my storylines.
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that one, but that's a great question for sure. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
What if you asked, let's say you asked 100 people that follow SEC football the same question you asked me about, you know, who are you most excited to hear from?
Yeah.
Of those 100 people, how many would say Eli Drinkwitz?
Yeah, he's a media like he's always the
it'd be 0, right?
No, it wouldn't, because
You don't think so?
no, because Media Days is his, like he's at the Comedy Club Stardome in Birmingham. Like, he holds court at Media Days.
Oh my goodness. Last year it was so empty. His was the most dead outside of Clark Lee.
But he will say, yeah, bless his heart. He'll say something though that I was like, gosh, he's so personable and charismatic, and like he'll use that time to say something that people find intriguing for a week or two. He'll be one of the personalities of Media Days. There's not a lot of them at this point.
No, there's not. There's not, because I mean, Freeze isn't going to say anything. So
no, most of them,
which is good, which is great.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think you should. I mean, turn on any kind of national college football talk right now. It's all bashing Gundy because of the stuff that he said. You know, it's just
because he was honest, not smart, but honest.
Yeah, but are Media Days a time for honesty? Like, probably not.
Well, in general, do we want honesty from our coaches, or do we just want them to say, or do we just not? Where's the medium? Because we don't want them to be short answer jerks. Okay. We don't want that. We don't want Bill Belichick standing up there in terms of how they are toward media, but we don't really want them to be honest.
Sure.
If we're honest about it, we don't really want, and they could. There's never been a time where coaches could be more honest if they chose, because they have so much leverage and they've banked so much money. Like, if you're going to fire me over some comments that I made that are honest, okay, I'll take it to the house.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. I think that about does it for today's show, Brad.
It does. That's an interesting topic, maybe for another day, though, to expound on a little bit more. In the meantime, thank you for liking the episode. Thanks for subscribing, commenting, and remember, until next time, everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.